let's say you get elected to Congress, which I'm sure is your wish. Yeah. You get elected to Congress. The reality is that the Congress is in a mode and under a lot of pressure to actually cut government spending, not to increase it. What would be the 3 things that you would cut? And please don't say government waste, because that's an abstraction and rarely ever happens. So if you could name 3 specific programs and or areas or departments that you would cut.
Well, I got one big one. I mean, we're fighting 2 wars right now that I completely don't agree with, and it's such a travesty that we got into these wars. And I'm not blaming the current administration, because we were in these wars before that. We're just dealing with it now. But the amount of money that we're spending in Iraq and Afghanistan, we could allocate many of those resources to things at home that would provide the opportunity.
So you would call for an immediate pull-out of American troops there?
You can't call for an immediate pull-out because we're there. And
but how else would you save money from that?
I would call for a systematic withdrawal from it, and over time you would be able to recoup those
But that's
dollars.
what's happening.
And that's what's happening now.
What's happening now under the Obama plan.
Yeah, it's happening now. It hasn't been, it hasn't reached fruition yet. It's been talked about as a plan of action, and dates have been established. I'm happy that dates have been established, but I'd like to make sure that those dates are kept, and then we actually start pulling our troops out. And with those funds that we save, primarily, we should put them into things like education. In communities that need the help with education, we should put them into affordable housing programs. We should actually develop.
But for the moment, you cited one. You got 2 to go.
There are other areas that I'm sure that we can actually cut. That makes sense, but the war is the primary one, and there is some government waste, I believe, that actually is being talked about and worked with in this idea of.
With all due respect, that is the typical politician's cop-out.
The idea of the president had with actually making the system transparent, where every earmark and every expenditure is actually posted online, is important, because that's where the fat comes from. It's all these earmarks that you get for these local programs that don't necessarily make sense for the federal government to do. And that is, in fact, government waste and trimming that stuff, because it's these special sort of favors that you sort of hand out all over the country. And that adds up every year to billions and billions of dollars. So if you want to phrase it like that, there is some fat and there is some waste that you can actually.
But indeed, that would still be minimal compared to the size of the budgets of most of the governmental departments, whether you count the Defense Department, the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, and so on down the line. The problem seems to be not only in Washington, but also right here in the state legislature, right here in the City Council of New York, that when it comes to dire situations of a budget, they say, well, cut his, but don't cut mine. I mean, that seems to be everybody's song. Or the other part is, well, we can't raise taxes either. Oh, okay. So we're stuck. So
we've got politicians who don't want to take responsibility for anything, and they don't want to make any decisions. We need people who are going to make tough decisions, and we need the American population to understand we're going to have to make some tough choices here. And, here's another thing that we shouldn't have done, and I actually didn't agree with from the beginning. We shouldn't have given the banks this big bailout. And now we're seeing the error in our judgment in doing that, because there could have been other ways that we could have helped make sure that they didn't collapse. Say that
since you've been working as a community banker. So maybe we could end with that. So tell us a little bit about that and how you get to don't bail out the banks.
I have to remind people of this all the time, because they see banker and they actually they think I'm some downtown Wall Street banker. I'm a community banker. My job is to actually try and find opportunities for our banks to invest resources into, low to moderate income communities. I don't have a huge department. I don't have a huge expense account, and I don't have sort of all of these resources.
You don't have any derivatives?
I didn't get one of those big bonuses either. And I studied derivatives in college, and I never understood them, and I don't understand them now.
Even the people who were selling them didn't understand them.
That's the point. So what I do is I actually find opportunities for us to loan money to folks that are building, developers and not-for-profit organizations that are in the development community that are building affordable housing around the state of New York. I work on projects to loan money to social services organizations that need, lines of credit, commercial lending in some format. And I also oversee small business loans to companies that have under $1 million annual operating revenues or are looking for loans under $100,000, the true bread and butter small business customers that we have.
Okay.